150, short, 5 left, 10. Keep left over crest bump, 120.
Welcome to Special Stage Extra, a monthly roundup of rallying and a chance for myself and the team here at Special Stage to bring you a breadth and depth of UK rallying coverage not seen before on television. Let's have a look now forward to what you can expect in tonight's episode of this exciting TV show. In this month's show, we visit the forests of North Yorkshire for the Riponian Rally. We stay in the north and head to Croft for a look at last month's Jaffa Stages. And we take a look back to the end of last year for the Christmas rallies at Pembrey and Croft, as well as action from the inaugural Pier rally in Somerset this year. First of all, he's off to Brands Hatch for the MGJ Engineering Winter Stages. It was a cold start to the fourth running of the Brands Hatch Winter Stages. The event sponsored once again by MGJ Engineering, and it will be an exciting start to the 2014 season for many, including many of the 2013 award winners, as well, of course, as some of the more unusual and exciting entries that regularly come out to play on this season opener. Here on Special Stage Extra, we're going to be taking a look at the overall and the class battles as the day unfolds, and it all starts here on Stage 1. It may not be high-speed stuff off the start line around the rally stage, but it was certainly a wake-up call. The wintry conditions not giving much chance of warming the tyres up just yet. For Johnny Ellis and Dave Green though, it was four-wheel drive the advantage, and they opened up a narrow early lead. Dean Thomas and Mark Burt come into the event with number 1 on the door, here to defend the victory from last year's rally, and it was going well so far. A joint quickest time on stage 2 was enough to indicate the conditions were improving. Stuart Gilks and Michael Boynes were continuing to enjoy their new car. The rear-wheel drive Micra replaced by the Sunbeam towards the end of last year, and the pace was good, 3rd overall and leading Class C. Royston and Bridge Carey didn't have the benefit of a new car, but they did have a new setup, and it was working so far as well. Not the 3rd place they finished in last year, but only by a technicality. Joint 3rd after Stage 2. And leading Class D in 5th overall were Ian Hucklebridge and Gary Johnson, the Escort pair just 3 seconds behind the Class C fight ahead of them. Outside the fight for the overall results, it will be a good 10 seconds lead after Stage 2 for Anthony and Christopher Newton in Class A. The Nova pair no strangers to class wins, and it was looking good at this early stage this weekend. It would be a bit closer in the next couple of class places as Oliver and Simon Howard just managed a 2-second lead over the similar Micra of 3rd placed Matt Endine and Lizzie Pope, which for the Howards' 6th event wasn't bad going at all. For Endine, the chase was on. With only 2 seconds in it, there would be no holding back and hopefully no mistakes. In Class B, it would be Dean Thomas up at the front, taking that class lead, but David Earthy and Maria Rayner would be there to take up 2nd in the class, down in 22nd place. They have a 15-second lead over 3rd place Robert Dillon and Peter Weston in the Honda Civic. Class C would be well represented at the top of the results, with 3rd and 4th place overall, leaving 3rd in the class at this stage to Ashley Davies and Richard Bonner in 10th place in the 205. Class D was being led at the moment by 5th place Ian Hucklebridge, but there was only 2 seconds in it, with Pete Rayner and Stanley Graham having a bit of a steady start in 6th place overall, 2nd in the class. Paul King and Gary Whittington are a further 3 seconds back in 7th overall and 3rd in class. And after the disappointment of losing out on the final stage in last year's rally, it wouldn't be the intention to stay in that position. Class E was of course dominated by Johnny Ellis up in the event lead, and the job of 2nd place was down to Alex Cannon and Ray Keith, not a million miles off the pace though themselves in 9th overall. It wouldn't be the best of starts for Nigel Mummery and Fiona Scarrett, although with 3 years non-finish in a row at this event, they would be hoping that this early 13th place wasn't a sign of bad luck. So after 2 stages, this is how the results are looking. conditions on the opening stage would catch a number of people out, luckily getting away with a little lost time, but nothing more serious. And it was crews right through the entry that fell foul of the icy stages, meaning these early results could change throughout the day as the conditions changed. Unfortunately for some though, it wouldn't be so lucky. A number of crews end the event early for various reasons, some a little more obvious than others. For those that could repair, it will be back out later in the event for a trophy rally, but for now, he's back to the action after stage 5. There wouldn't be much change at the top after stage 5, with Johnny Ellis and Dave Green still out in front. The advantage in that place had now doubled to 12 seconds. And it would still be second for last year's winners, Dean Thomas and Mark Burt. They had just 3 stages left to gain 13 seconds, but that wouldn't be easy with the car developing a problem that wasn't going to help on these fast stages. For Royston and Bridge Carey, it would still be a move up into third. This was as much down to the drop down to 7th for Stuart Gilks, but a place gained is welcomed nonetheless. And it would be a move up the order too for Pete Rayner and Stanley Graham. They take up 4th place. Paul King and Gary Whittington unable to gain any ground on class rival Rayner as they lie in 5th position for now. So back to the classes, and it would still be a class lead for Anthony and Christopher Newton. The lead up to over 40 seconds now. Matt Endine and Lizzie Pope pick up the pace a little more on these stages, moving up to 2nd in the class. Which means, of course, it's a slip down into 3rd for Oliver and Simon Howard. 23 seconds now behind Endine. Dean Thomas continued to lead Class B at this stage. Robert Dillon and Peter Weston making a move up the order into 2nd in the class. This, of course, down to the loss of David Earthy and Maria Rayner in a previous stage. So that means it's also a move up the class places to 3rd for Tim Clark and Hayley Deal in the Escort. The top of Class C was still being dominated by Royston Carey, leaving 7th place Stuart Gilks and Michael Boynes to that 2nd in class for now. Nick Jarvis and Craig Thorley are just 15 seconds behind in 3rd. It was a close battle in Class D. Pete Rayner out ahead of Paul King, and just 8 seconds back in 3rd were Ian Hucklebridge and Gary Johnson. It was still anyone's to play for in Class D. Johnny Ellis continues to lead Class E from the front of the rally, with Nigel Mummery and Fiona Scarrett, their nearest class rivals, over a minute down. It would be Colin and Richard Knott who take up 3rd, a little over a minute back from Mummery. 5 stages down then, and the results look like this. While the battles throughout the top of the results and the classes may be entertaining, it's only a small section of the variety of competitors out on this weekend's event. And with Chelmsford Motor Club being one of the largest active motor clubs in the southeast, it's no wonder that they pull in some unique and varied entries to their events. With everything from micros up to world rally cars, Dennis Marshall's Millington-powered Metro, and the difficult-to-handle Ferrari 308 Michelotto of Lee Jones, amongst a whole host of other spectator favourites. They may not all be fighting for trophies, but they certainly give the spectators and those driving them a lot of smiles. So 8 stages and around 40 stage miles later, let's have a quick run through the final class and overall finishers. Taking 3rd in Class A and 41st overall were Oliver and Simon Howard. 2nd in that class and 39th on the leaderboard are Matt Endine and Lizzie Pope in the Micra. Tony Bird and John Flippants finished 3rd in Class E and 29th overall in the Escort Cosworth. Robert Dillon and Peter Weston here finished a few places ahead in 26th overall, as well as 3rd in Class B. 25th overall and 2nd in Class B were Ben and Mike Dawson in the Escort. Just 8 seconds advantage in that place at the finish. Anthony and Christopher Newton would come out on top of Class A, as they had been doing all day long. And Colin and Richard Knott end the event 2nd in Class E, missing out on the class win by just 30 seconds, with the win going in favour of Stuart Cadman and Dennis Suttonwood. Ashley Davies and Richard Bonner end the event third in Class C and 8th overall in the Peugeot 205 Mi16. Stuart Gilks and Michael Boynes have to settle for second in Class C, but do have almost a minute's advantage in that position. Meanwhile, it's 5th overall and 3rd in Class D for Ian Hucklebridge and Gary Johnson in the Escort. Paul King and Gary Whittington don't manage to repeat last year's early good run, but they do equal the 4th place overall finish from 2013 and take home 2nd in Class D. Pete Rayner and Stanley Graham had a slightly cautious start but end the event in 3rd overall. A great result to get them the Class D victory as well. And for Royston and Bridge Carey, it will be 2nd overall and the Class C win. A good drive all day saw them fighting at the sharp end right from the start. And what about the win? Well, drama in the final stages, as event leader Johnny Ellis would lose out to a puncture in the penultimate stage, handing the victory to Dean Thomas and Mark Burt. The pair may have been gifted that win, but they'd never ever let the early rally leaders out of their sights, and the battle was close right from the start. So here's a quick reminder of who finished where.
Congratulations on the win then, Dean. How was it for you today? A bit slippery start.
Very slippery. We've had problems with the car, believe it or not. We've had to sort of take it a bit easy for the afternoon because for some reason I had a misfire all morning. So we've been short shifting, which has amazed me that the times have come. But other than that, it's the first event in 12 months it's not overheated. So that's a major bonus. That's a step forward. That's about it, really. I mean, thanks to everyone that's turned up and helped me out. And I do feel sorry for poor Johnny for going out with a punch. That's pretty rotten luck, but there you go.
Stay tuned after the break as we head to Yorkshire for the 2014 Riponian Stages Rally. The Riponian Rally marks the start of the Forest Rally season for many, and as you'll see from the coverage, there were a number of familiar faces out for a pre-season run on the gravel before their BTRDA season kicks off with the Wydene just a week later. Based out of Thirsk in North Yorkshire, the crews have 10 very slippery stages to complete, so let's see how they got on in the first few of those stages. A late entry from Ollie Mellors and Alex Lee in the crowd-pleasing Proton was turning out to be a good move, as the pair lead the way after stage 3 with a 10-second lead. Ian Joel and Graham Wood bring the Escort Cosworth out for a blast and settle into an early second position. And in contrast to the older model Ford World Rally technology of Joel, Peter Stevenson and Ian Windrus were out in the later model Focus WRC and going well so far in 3rd place. Matthew Robinson and Sam Collis are the first of the historic crews to feature in the top 10 times, ending stage 3 in 4th place. And Miles Johnston with Ian Bevan alongside were having a good run on the morning stages to lie in 5th position in the Evo, but the gap to Robinson was growing stage by stage. Pete Smith and Graham Wild were out again in the 6R4, this time the gravel car, and 6th place was a good start after being used to rear-wheel drive for such a long time. Thomas Preston and BTRDA Championship regular Jamie Forrest end stage 3 in 7th place. Identical on times to Smith, but it could have been slightly different had it not been for a few small moments. Ben Cree and Richard Shaw's lie in 8th place at this stage in the Peugeot. Roger Mark Fowler and Chris Dewsnap were another crew using every inch of the road in North Yorkshire, here in 9th position at this stage. And 1400 KA crew Matt and Darren Smith round out the top 10, pushing the car to its limits as always. It would all be changed in the next loop of stages. We lose Ollie Mellors and Alex Lee in the Proton. The pair get it a little wrong on the first corner of stage 6 and put the car off the road. An unlucky mistake for the rally leaders, but thankfully both fine. So that means it's Ian Joel and Graham Wood that take the lead in the Escort Cosworth. The pair only have a 12-second advantage though, so small mistakes like this would have to stop if they were going to keep that lead. Chasing them down in second place were still Peter Stevenson and Ian Windress, moving up into that place with the loss of Mellors, of course. And the pair would surely have that 12 seconds firmly in their sights. No change either for Matthew Robinson and Sam Collis. Still trailing the Focus pair, the gap just 17 seconds at this stage in the event. The real change though would come from Matt and Darren Smith in the 1400 KA. The pair clearly on a mission, and they jump up the results into a fantastic 4th overall. Chris Hay and Sally Peacock are another crew to move quite a way up the results as they move up into 5th place overall on the leaderboard in the Escort. Alex Lund and Nick Kitchen are another Escort pair to make a jump up the results. They take up 6th place, just 1 second behind Hay in 5th. Steve and Rachel Magson are the second of the historic crews in the top 10, 2 seconds behind Lund, but some way off the historic leader Robinson. And third of the historics, with 8th overall at this stage, are Thomas Herrick and Mick Johnson. The Escort just 4 seconds down on 7th place at this stage. Roger Mark Fowler and Chris Dewsnap have no change in position as they end these stages in 9th place in the Impreza. And rounding out the top 10 now would be the BMW of Robert Harkness and Michael Curry. So with 6 of the day's 10 stages complete, let's take a look at how the top 10 results were decided at the finish of the Riponian. Just as there had been all day, there were changes right through the top 10. And rounding out the top 10 leaderboard at the end of the day were Marcus Noble and Helen Hall in the Escort, 4th of the historic crews to boot as well. After dropping out of the top 10 on the middle loop, it would be a step back up into 9th place for Pete Smith and Graham Wilde. Not the result they looked set for, but a good debut of the car for Smith. And Robert Harkness, with Michael Curry alongside, manages a few places gained in the final stages and moves up into a great 8th place finish overall. No change for Steve and Rachel Magson as they end the day in that 7th place they took in the middle loop of stages. And the same could be said for Alex Lund and Nick Kitchen too. They finish in that 6th place that they held for most of the day. Chris Hay and Sally Peacock end the event in 5th position. A great result for the pair. And it will be 2nd of the historics and 4th overall for Thomas Herrick and Mick Johnson in the Escort, just 30 seconds off a podium position. The first of which belonged to BTRDA 1400 regular Matt and Darren Smith. The pair have a fantastic drive to secure 3rd in the Little KA. A feat which shows why he was one of the few to challenge Julian Wilkes in the BTRDA 1400 Championship in 2013. Runner-up then and highest placed historic crew would be Matthew Robinson and Sam Collis. The pair have a great run and a good warm-up for the BTRDA season ahead. And what about that lead then? Well, unfortunately for Ian Joel, it would be retirement in the penultimate stage in the Escort Cosworth. So it means a win for the newer Ford for Peter Stevenson and Ian Windress. The Focus pair taking the lead a few stages from the end, and the results being confirmed with the loss of Joel. So at the end of the 2014 Riponian Stages Rally, here's a reminder of our top 10.
Well done on the win today then. How was it for you?
Technically challenging, very enjoyable. Marshals have done a good job. Weather's been a bit desperate for them early this morning, but got quite good this afternoon. But yeah, really enjoyed it though.
It was very, very slippy. with having the beauty of running first on the on the stages this morning, it was much better. Once the four-wheel drive guys had been through, and then the second run today, they'd pulled everything out of every gutter, and it was really slippy. But this morning was awesome.
And how was the car?
Yeah, well, we only picked it up at 4 o'clock last night, so I think we've dried the paint on it now, if you like. So it was just Kev builds a standard car anyway, and it's just same as last one really, so doesn't feel any different anyway. There's a few less rattles on this one.
After the break, we stay in the north here at Special Stage Extra for all of the action from the Autogas 2000 Jack Frost Stages at Croft. The Autogas 2000 Jack Frost Stages Rally, organised by Darlington and District, is one of a couple of events to be held at Croft over the winter. And the venue includes a mix of the fast race circuit and some of the more technical perimeter and access roads. There wouldn't be any agonising over the tyre choice. The stages were wet, and for the morning at least were not showing any signs of looking like drying. Nevertheless, 80 cars lined up to tackle these slippery stages. So on to the stages then, and a rundown of the results in the various classes. And in Class 1, it would be a good early lead for Andy Fawcett and Chris Purvis. The Nova pair quick right out of the blocks to take a 90-second lead. Andrew and Richard Chandler were the nearest competition in this escort. And just 18 seconds behind Chandler were the Rover Metro pair of Luke Searle and David Cox. In Class 2, it was certainly expected that Barry and Michael Lindsay would go well, and indeed they did, leading the class by 44 seconds at the end of 2 stages. It would be Joe Cunningham and Daniel Kennedy that chased them down in second place. The gap was a good one, but was still manageable with so many stages left to go here at Croft. And rounding out the top of Class 2 would be Des Campbell and Craig Forsyth, the pair only 7 seconds behind the Peugeot 106 of Cunningham. Class 3 would be a little closer, with Hamish Kinloch and Jim Howie taking an early lead over the opening stages in the Mark II. Mark Thompson and Phil Kenny in the 206 GTI would be their closest rivals at this stage, 20 seconds behind the leaders now. And for Paul and Chris Alsop in third place, it would be even closer, with just 9 seconds keeping them from second place. Class 4 would be the battle of the escorts at the top, with Ian and Stephen Woodhouse coming out on top after the first 2 stages, leading by 35 seconds. James Sharrock and Stuart Folds were having a good run to lie in second. They were some way ahead of third place as well. A place taken by Mike Harrington and Alex Taylor. A minute and a half behind Sharrock, but with this being Mike's first time in the driving seat, it was some going. Class 5 would represent the overall results of the rally, with youngster Ben Mellors and Tom Spencer out for another run in the Proton Millington. And it couldn't have started any better either, leading the event by 26 seconds after stage 2. The battle may have been a bit closer had it not been for a stall by Steve Simpson and Patrick Walsh on the opening stage. Seconds were lost, but how many? There were plenty more stages to see if the time could be made back. And for event sponsor Chris Wise and Tracy Taylor-West, it would be third place. And with Mellors and Simpson being late entries, this could have been a very different story, but the competition was good and everyone was being pushed. Class 6 would be a selection of older machinery, and leading the way in that class would be Alan Cooper and Richard Wyndham-Smith. The Sunbeam pair opening up almost a 2-minute lead at this stage in the rally. John Nicholson and Peter Littlefield bring the Escort to the end of stage 2 in second place. The gap to the lead was a big one, but their advantage in second was over 5 minutes. But for third place Darren Wilson and Jamie Forrest, it wasn't as simple as stage times. The pair went off and got stuck on stage 2, resulting in a maximum and a tow, restarting under the trophy rally rules on stage 5 later in the event. So after the opening stages, this is how things are shaping up on the leaderboard. On to the next few stages now, and the weather was improving. Well, it had stopped raining as much, but the conditions were still far from ideal on that tarmac. But for Andy Fawcett and Chris Purvis, it would be no problem. They still maintain the lead of the class and extend that advantage to over 3 minutes now. No change in second either for Andrew and Richard Chandler. The gap to the lead was growing, but they still had a minute in hand over third place. A place which had now changed hands, and it would be Christopher Rowe and Robert Mackenzie that take up third spot in place of Luke Searle in the Metro. In Class 2, we would still see Barry and Michael Lindsay heading the class. After stage 5, they had just over a minute's lead in hand with 3 stages remaining. And it would still be second for Joe Cunningham and Daniel Kennedy. The positions weren't changing, but the times were. They dropped back a little from the class lead, but their advantage in second place grows. They now have over 40 seconds on third place Des Campbell and Craig Forsyth in the 2:06. If the pace in Class 2 stays the same, then it's looking like this would be the final result. Things were much the same in Class 3. Hamish Kinlock and Jim Howie continue their good run in the class lead and turn their advantage into a 48-second lead. A lead still over the Peugeot of Mark Thompson and Phil Kenny, the second place pairing doing their best to keep it tight at the top of this class. But there would be some change in third place. We see a move up the class order for Joseph Redmond and Luke Campbell in the Peugeot 306. There would be a change in Class 4 as we lose leaders Ian and Stephen Woodhouse to clutch failure. This means that James Sharrock and Stuart Folds step up to take the class lead, and a good comfortable lead they would have too at this stage. Promotion then too for Mike Harrington and Alex Taylor. Second in the class was a good thing to be saying at this stage, but 3 more stages remain and they would have to bring it home in one piece. A new face in third now then as Darren Grimston and Richard Ross step up into that place. The BMW mixing up the Escorts at the top of this class. Class 5 and the overall rally leaderboard sees a new leader. Steve Simpson and Patrick Walsh take up first place, and with a 25-second advantage too. All change in second place as well. Chris Wise and Tracy Taylor-West in that Metro 6R4 step up to the runner-up position. So what about our previous leader then? Well, for Ben Mellors and Tom Spencer, it will be third. A mistake would see them spinning off onto the wet grass and losing a load of time. Maybe the conditions, or maybe the pressure of the chasing Simpson and Wise. In Class 6, we lose previous leaders Alan Cooper and Richard Wyndham-Smith as they retire the Sunbeam in Stage 4.
Still just waiting for the times to filter in. A little bit more circumspect.
That means just 2 crews remain in Class 6, and taking the lead will be John Nicholson and Peter Littlefield in the Escort. Darren Wilson and Jamie Forrest come back out on Stage 5 after their morning's problems, not really in contention, but enjoying themselves nonetheless in the Escort. The event wouldn't be kind to everyone, with a number of crews retiring as the day goes on. One of the early retirements would be Peter Stevenson and Ian Windrus in the Impreza. They retire after Stage 1 with mechanical issues. We also lose John Stone and Jack Morton in stage 6. John out in the slightly lower powered Legend Fires Peugeot 206, but having plenty of fun. Sadly, it all comes to an end after a morning of engine problems. Alistair Hutchinson and Steve Walmsley make it out as far as stage 5 before they have to call it a day. But not before some showboating for the fans out on the stages. And we lose Matt Tarbert and Geoff Hay as they retire the Peugeot 306 Maxi in stage 7 after having a bit of fun on the stages as well. So with just a few stages remaining here at Croft, here's a reminder of how the leaderboards look. So on to the final results then, and in Class 1 it will be a third place finish for Luke Searle and David Cox as they manage to make their way back into that place in the final stages. No change all day for Andrew and Richard Chandler. They finished second in the class in the Escort. And for Andy Fawcett and Chris Purvis, it would be a dominant class victory of over 6 minutes, also putting them in 15th place overall. Malcolm Davey and Paul Slingsby end the event in 19th position, which is enough to get them third in Class 2, overtaking Des Campbell to get the trophy by just 2 seconds. Joe Cunningham and Daniel Kennedy managed to get themselves just into the top 10 as they secure second in the class in the Peugeot 106. But it would be a great drive from Barry and Michael Lindsay to finish 7th overall and take the Class 2 victory that they'd held all day long. In Class 3 there wouldn't be any change. Even the times were pretty similar at the end, and it would be Joseph Redmond and Luke Campbell who come out in third in the class, just missing out on a top 10 overall finish in 11th. That wasn't the case though for second in class Mark Thompson and Phil Kenny. They have a good run and finish in 9th on the overall leaderboard as well. And no problems for Hamish Kinlock and Jim Howie as they score themselves a fantastic 5th overall and take away the Class 3 victory in the process. The only things to change in Class 4 were the gaps, and for third place Darren Grimston and Richard Ross it was getting smaller. 17 seconds by the end of the rally, but running out of stages to try and gain any more time. Which means for Mike Harrington and Alex Taylor they managed to hold on to second in the class and get a good result this time out. But with a great performance all day, it will be the class win for James Sharrock and Stuart Folds, a result that also sees them just miss out on the podium places overall in 4th. In Class 6, it would be the class win for John Nicholson and Peter Littlefield in the Escort. On to Class 5 now and the overall results, and it will be third for Ben Mellors and Tom Spencer. Their attempt to climb back up the results was met with further problems when a shaft on the Proton broke and lost them a little more time. So for event sponsor Chris Wise and Tracy Taylor-West in that spectator-pleasing 6R4, it will be second place. The gap in the end was down to just 19 seconds, showing that the pace at the top really was close. But despite their early time loss due to that stall, Steve Simpson and Patrick Walsh walk away with the victory and finish their first event in this new car. A well-deserved win as well after a great battle all day here at Croft. So at the end of the 2014 Autogas 2000 Jack Frost Stages, here's a reminder of the final leaderboard.
Congratulations on the win today. A little bit of a battle with Ben Mellors. How's it been for you?
It was good. It was a really enjoyable day. The weather this morning, the conditions were a bit treacherous, but it was the same for everybody, and had a really good day. Had a good battle with Ben and Miss Morris in the Metro and stuff. You know, it's been really a good day.
We've had a bit of a troublesome day, to be honest with you. The morning stages were a bit of a problem with the rain. We had a little bit of problem with a throttle pot on the car that went down, which gave us a bit of a really bad stage time on the first stage, but then it came right towards the end.
Any plans for future season?
No plans at all. We just do what we fancy when we fancy it.
It's a bit of a shame, really. We took an early lead, which I was quite happy with, and then made a bit of a mistake on stage 4, which cost us the lead and put us back to third, and then we broke a shaft on stage 5, so obviously wasn't our day, but I've really enjoyed it. So.
Coming up after the break here at Special Stage Extra, we have another visit to Croft for the Christmas stages. A look at the Jaffa Stages from Pembrey and some rally sprint action from Somerset. Stay tuned. The Christmas stages at Croft took place right at the end of 2013. As the name suggests, around Christmas time. And as always, it would attract a good mix of locals and very quick crews challenging for that overall win. The weather was fine and the stages fast, so it wasn't going to be an easy victory for anyone today. It would be a great start for the early leaders Chris Wise and Mick Johnson in the Metro 6R4. The times were close, and with the times at the top all separated by just a few seconds, if this were a sign of things to come, the spectators had a good day of rallying to look forward to. It would be second for Kevin Proctor and Dave Bellaby, the Subaru pair just 4 seconds down on the rally lead at this stage. Ben Mellors and Alex Lee would be making an impact on the top of the results as well in that fantastic sounding Millington Proton. They lie in third place. And it will be fourth place for Peter Taylor and Jack Morton in the Focus, just 3 seconds behind the Proton in front. And adding even more variety to the top of the results were Tony Bardi and Reg Smith in the Nissan Sunny GTI-R. Over the next few stages there will be some change, including a step up to the lead for Kevin Proctor and Dave Bellaby. This despite being held up in stage by another competitor and the car now looking a little second hand. It will be a drop down a place into second for Chris Wise and Mick Johnson. The gap was still only 9 seconds, but 9 seconds in the wrong favour for the Metro driver. No change for Ben Mellors and Alex Lee in third. They continue with a steady run, dropping a few seconds of stage to the leaders, but good going for the youngster. For Tony Bardi and Reg Smith, it was a move up a place into fourth. The Nissan driver making the most of the loss of Peter Taylor, who retires now with throttle problems on the Focus. And this all means that Peter Stevenson and Ian Windrus are able to step up into 5th place now. Peter out in the Subaru for this event. On to the finish then here at Croft and a look at a couple of the classes as well. And in Class 1 it will be second for David Coatsworth and Daniel Emerson in the MG-ZR. But taking a very strong class win in the Corsa were Mark and Andrew Constantine, finishing 19th overall in the process. In Class 2 it will be Paul Sheard and Anthony Neal that secure second place in the Mazda MX-5. But taking the victory would be Barry and Michael Lindsay in their rapid Peugeot 106. In Class 3 it will be second place for Jeff Wright and Andrew Dockeray in the Almira kit car. But taking that class win by just over 2 minutes would be Martin Tinker and Jacqueline Jones in the Lotus Exige. It would be close in Class 4 with second place going to Paul Swift and David Cox, the stunt driver missing out on the class win by just 34 seconds. So taking the Class 4 win would be Ian and Stephen Woodhouse. The pair also take a great 5th place overall in that Escort. Fourth overall and going on to the Class 5 results were Peter Stevenson and Ian Windrus in the Impreza. There wouldn't be any change in third as Ben Mellors and Alex Lee keep hold of that place all day long and take a podium finish in the Proton. And no change either for early leaders Chris Wise and Mick Johnson. Their drop down to second wouldn't change in the final stages as they finished almost a minute behind the eventual winners. Which all means it's a win for Kevin Proctor and Dave Bellaby. The Subaru pair took the lead early on, no doubt helped by a little red mist, and they held it right to the finish. So at the end of the event, here's a reminder of the top of the results. January this year saw the first running of a new event from Western Supermare Motor Club, the Grand Pier Rally Sprint. The event was very much a test for something bigger and better, and it was hailed a success by those involved and those competing. So let's take a little look at what happened on the stages. The first stages would be repeat runs up the toll road, and fastest of the crews up there would be Steve and Michael O'Leary in the Darien. Spencer Chard and Dave Tortoshell would be first on the road, but unfortunately not by the end of stage 2, as they lie in second place. Richard and Jan Knott would be third at the end of stage 2. While it's the escort of Dave and Jamie Harris who lie in fourth place at this stage. Jeff Brown and Alison Locke in the Chevette round off the top 5 at the end of this loop of stages. The next stages would see the crews take on various farm and airfield stages, and the nature of the event meant that the competitors would be on the stage one at a time, often required to use parts of the stage in multiple directions. There wouldn't be any change at the top in these stages, as the Darien of Stephen and Michael O'Leary still heads the field. Change though in second as we lose Spencer Chard, and that place is taken by the escort of previous 4th place runners Dave and Jamie Harris. A good move up the results for the pair. For Richard and Jan Knott, it would still be third. They could have gained a place with the retirement ahead had it not been for the charge of Harris in these stages. It would be a new name in 4th place as we see Richard Barrow and Andrew Richards step up in the Impreza. While Jeff Brown and Alison Locke continue to round off the top 5 in the Chevette. On to the final 2 stages then, and a run on the toll road once again, and there wouldn't be any change in 5th as Jeff Brown and Alison Locke remain in that position to the finish. Richard Barrow and Andrew Richards keep the place they gained in the middle loop to finish the event in 4th. Richard and Jan Knott make it to the finish with a good podium place in 3rd. And it's a great 2-wheel drive win along with 2nd overall for Dave and Jamie Harris. But taking the win by just over a minute would be Steve and Michael O'Leary in the Darien, a lead they held from start to finish with 12 out of 14 fastest stage times. So at the end of this unique event, the top of the results look like this. With the Christmas stages at Croft catering for the north of the UK, the Jaffa Stages at Pembrey would be catering for the south on the same weekend. And as always, the entertainers were out to give the spectators something to make it worth standing out in the cold and icy conditions. So with plenty of exciting battles throughout the classes and in the overall leaderboard, let's have a look at the results. Counting back in the classes, we start with Class 7, and it would be just 31 seconds separating the top of that class, with Kerry Jones and Mark Goggins missing out just on the win to Hugh Jones and Darren Williams in that Peugeot 206. It couldn't possibly be any closer in Class 6, as Jeff Kitney and Ken Gibbard in the Evo finish on an identical time to the class winners Emir Morgan and Paul Jones. Morgan and Jones taking the victory on a tiebreak due to their faster time on the first stage. In Class 5, it would be Gareth Reed and Steve Waters in the BMW taking second in the class. Just over half a minute behind the class winners at the end of the event, that would be Ian Kenvin and Ian Meakin in the Mark 1 Escort. Russ Smith and Dan Harrison end the event second in Class 4. The over 200 pair just over a minute back from the class winners Mark Thompson and Catherine Bainan. Gareth Lloyd and Cadog Davies finished second in Class 3, unfortunately missing out on a better class result due to the fantastic performance of Sean Crowley and Emma Jones. The pair had been up as high as third at one point in the event, but for now they take the Class 3 trophy. Lynn Llewellyn and Lee Pryor have a good run in the Nova to finish second in Class 2, but they couldn't quite match the pace of Kevin Tappin and Jonathan Hawkins, the pair out in the Escort due to the Cosworth not being ready in time. James Watkins and Dan Niroda in the Micra struggled a little. They were beaten to the top spot by Kevin and Nathan Jones. A dominant performance from the pair to see a well-deserved victory. But with all the class battles aside, it will be a fantastic overall win for Paul and Nia Fowden. The father and daughter crew going one better than Paul's runner-up place on last year's event. And certainly a good result for Nia, navigating on her first ever rally this weekend. So at the end of the event, the results looked like this. So that's all we've got time for in this first edition of Special Stage Extra. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can catch the next one on Wednesday the 5th of March at 7:25pm. And at the same time every first Wednesday in the month, where we'll bring you all the best clubman rallying, off-road racing, features and news from the championships we cover here at Special Stage. See you next time.